Valid
that
points being
always
named
and
by
not always 5%,
very
6%.
valid points being highlighted by Tyra ji. And let me then sum up and then take the question further to Risheka Dhawan, who's also joining us. Risheka, as someone who is an expert and someone who has specialized in the formulation of this POSH code and the Vishaka guidelines, where when it comes to consent and where it comes to a former relationship in a professional space here, where do we draw the lines? Because the POSH guidelines are very clear. What matters is how the woman in this case perceives the action at this point, not the intent of the person who's committing these actions here. How does that then be juxtaposed in a case where at one point the woman had probably given consent for an office relationship, and later for whatever circumstances that consent was withdrawn?
So, Ritanshu, there are three main points to be considered while understanding sexual harassment. Point number one is subject. It's subjective, which means whoever felt whatever that person felt. Second is intention versus impact. Intention versus impact is what was the intention of the person versus how a person felt of the act. The impact outweighs the intention. And rule number three, wherever there is consent, the aspect of harassment evaporates. So it is consent, which means the two people agreed to a relationship and are engaged in a consensual relationship. All three aspects are dealt by the committee at all private organizations to understand sexual harassment. Now, we are touching upon the second and the third point, which is intention versus impact versus consensual relationship. There are various judgments which have clarified that it's very difficult to draw a line when it's a consensual relationship and when it turned bitter or sour. And there should be a substantive time
Yes.
that should be elapsed from the time a breakup has happened at workplace between two people, and from that time the incident that has occurred. And that analysis is done not just in some of the cases but in most cases, because it so happens that earlier the workforces had less of women. Our grandmothers never worked, but then our mothers started working, and now the population is much more, and the next generation will have an equitable distribution of the genders. So the word consent is yet to be interpreted, and it is case to case. So it's very difficult to draw a line and say that all women do misuse the word consent here. And intention versus impact, the intention of the person being established versus the amount of impact. So, for example, here we are discussing about a rape case. The impact is the impact of that rape, but whether that rape was an outcome of a consensual relationship or was just an intention of a person in a friendly relationship, this is to be analyzed at all occasions in all organizations and by all IC. That's the tact of an inquiry.